Power's a really interesting character. He's one of two brothers, twins, raised in the east side of Los Angeles, who've kind of risen through the ranks. His brother as a state senator, and him as a decorated police officer, who, as we find out in the movie, has to then kind of put some of his beliefs aside to try to help accomplish what his family's trying to do. I think he's a guy caught between worlds and caught between good intentions and the means to get there. The first thing that really attracted me to this project was the play. It was such an amazing play that I myself hadn't seen done on stage, but I'd read the play, and it was really the poetry is what attracted me to this project. The poetry in there's a poetry in the neighborhood, there's a poetry in the barrio, there's a poetry in Chicano politics and the struggle that's all encompassed in this story, and it's kind of bursting at the seams with poetry. And I found the struggle of taking something that had been so well received on stage and bringing it onto the screen, and how that was going to work, and being workshopping that from the beginning with Richard. And the other thing that really attracted me to the project was being able to work with Richard. I've been in this business here in Los Angeles for about 16 years, and I remember one of the first things while I was doing Resurrection Boulevard was going to see Culture Clash perform. And I'd grown up on the show, and I love their satire and their approach and the sense of humor, and that sense of humor is all through this project as well. For me to prepare for this role, playing a police officer is something that I've had a lot of experience with, so that was never a part that really came into the process for me. But what really did was my own experience with having a brother myself. I have an older brother, and my father has 3 brothers. I grew up around the uncles and a big family, and my brother was somebody that I always kind of experienced the world first through. I have an older brother, so he kind of did everything first, and he then shared a lot of his experiences with me. But that kind of push and pull and this kind of weird relationship that brothers have, where you want to try to gain the respect, but at the same time acting like it's something you don't really care about and you're your own person, yet you're so fiercely intertwined that it's something that's hard to escape. And I think that's what really also why I understood the project from the beginning, or at least that the experience of those 2 brothers was just the one with my own brother as well. Yeah, working with Enrique Murciano was from the start really fun. He's an interesting actor who is very open with himself, and I think from the beginning, Richard and I realized that when we all met and we were first trying to find out who was playing what and which actors were going to be enlisted, Enrique came on the scene and just immediately, he's a talker. Enrique is I'm trying to think of what the word. Enrique is a smooth operator, and it was clear that this was a guy who'd be perfect to play the politician, to play Water. Mostly the work with him and I think, stood in becoming brothers, forming that bond, and we immediately started hang out, we ride motorcycles together, hung out a lot at the house, went over the script, talked a lot about our mutual experiences, and I really had an absolutely good time working with Enrique. Working with Richard for his directorial debut, there was so much excitement, Here's someone who was just approaching the medium of film from a very different angle. Richard himself is an actor very much entrenched in Hollywood and some big blockbuster, comedy hits and things. So he's no stranger to it, but he was coming at it, it felt like almost somebody that didn't have that experience with it in a good way, because there was nothing really felt conventional with the way we approached the script, the way we worked on it, the way we rehearsed, the way we shot, and then ultimately the way he even workshopped it and showed it when it was like not even anywhere near done. But that's a man from theater, and that's a performance artist, and that's him putting so many of these different aspects of his character and what he's gleaned from this business over the years, and cram that into a singular project that's so full of life, and as I said before, so full of poetry, that it was really, you know, it was exciting, and you just kind of felt sometimes you just put your faith in it and rolled with what was going on and trusted that he was kind of the Mad Hatter that had an idea of the way everything was going to come together. And I think, you know, Enrique, the funniest thing is him and I would turn to each other continually during Richard's directing and just be kind of like, I think this guy's crazy. I really think he is. And we would just laugh to ourselves and give ourselves over to the process. And it wasn't really like, it didn't take that long into the filming before we turned to each other and we're like, this guy is a genius. He's a crazy genius. When asked the question, what message Water and Power delivers, it's such a difficult question to answer because I think there's so much in it. It's bursting at the seams with symbolism and direct, you know, satire, as well as this noir vein that runs throughout it that kind of has a real sense of humor about itself, while at the same time taking on really big themes. So I think everybody gets their own meaning from it, but for me, I mean, I know it's been described as a cautionary tale in some ways, about rising too fast or rising too high, and what's the ceiling that's been put up for Latinos in politics and in life and struggle. I think, if anything, it's a story of survival and almost being shown the limitations, the boundaries that have been set up just by the systems around us, and watching two hardscrabble kids from the streets try to forge their own path, and ultimately it's in some ways a fatal one. And what's so important, I think, is that it really, to me, it almost seems like a love letter to the Latino experience in America, and specifically the Chicano experience in LA. That this movie is so couched in the struggle of farm workers' strikes to city politics in Los Angeles and backroom deals and who's left out and who's put in. I think it's very eye-opening. I think what I really hope that people take away from this film is for one, just being entertained. There's so much humor in the film. It's a love letter to so many different sides of Los Angeles that I don't think a lot of people even know exists, and yet they'll recognize so much in it when it's all put together. There's a lot of commentary, whether political, social commentary, that is in there, and I think that the more people watch it, the more you take out of it and the more you learn. And I want it to open the eyes of the audience to the way things are around us, and how we really are all connected. You know, same way that all the neighborhoods in Los Angeles are connected, and they have their individual names, but yet they're all forming this universal, this city. I feel that's the way this movie is too. It brings together all these parts, and if anything, I would think people would be entertained with learning something about a city they think they already know everything about.